So there's quite a few things that I wish that I understood a little bit more thoroughly or better whenever I started down my personal development, spiritual healing journey, whatever words you want, whatever resonates with you. And I wanted to make a video about some like really important key factors that I feel like I haven't really touched on ever before. And yeah, so let's get started. So I think a lot of times when people start down healing journeys or spiritual journeys, a lot of times they start off with doing yoga, or maybe they try to learn how to meditate. Or like for me, I started, like, I was already into yoga and I was already familiar with meditation, but like what I feel like really like catapulted me was like reading a lot of spiritual books. And then I started going to sound baths regularly. So there's all these like little things that I think kind of interest people about spirituality, or people who are struggling with something in their life, or a pattern or depression, or a trauma that they're trying to move past. So there's always little things that people are trying to kind of overcome. And it seems like a lot of people start off in these areas that I just mentioned: meditation, yoga. A lot of people plant medicine. Like I was really interested in ayahuasca and mushrooms. And yeah, there's just like little things that people are like kind of get them their interest peaked, and things that are a little bit more of mainstream right now. So it doesn't seem as like woo woo or weird. So something that I talk a lot about, that I haven't really like quite uncovered or quite like explained with you guys, is shadow work. And I think that all of these practices that I just mentioned, like journaling, meditation, yoga, they're all great for like lots of different things. But the way that I've kind of channeled my own personal work and why I feel like I've been able to grow so much is because of this concept of shadow work, or like inner child work. And these are words that a lot of times I remember hearing whenever I was like starting off on my journey, but I had no idea what that meant. And like maybe it's just me, or maybe it's a lot of people, but it's like I didn't really want to, like, I felt like I kind of understood what it meant, but I didn't really want to seem like I was like so far behind on my spiritual healing journey that I didn't ever really want to ask. And I feel like the few people that I did ask, I still didn't really understand. So this video may go like completely over your head, or it may not be for you, may not resonate with you. But I know that the few people that I spoke with when I first began my journey, them sharing stuff with me, that even if I didn't understand it back then, it was helpful, because as I kind of went through like my spiritual journey, as I continued like down learning different things and all of that, it's like there's conversations that I had had with people that I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember this specific person talking to me about this. And shadow work is one thing that like I had no real, like I kind of had an idea. I'm like, okay, it has to do with like shadow, something like something in the dark, or like I kind of had a general like, okay, let me make a conclusion about this, but I didn't really get it. And I'm realizing now how all this stuff I've been talking to you guys about over the past couple weeks, months, is essentially shadow work. And a lot of people come to me and they are asking me questions about meditation. They're like, I don't know, like they feel like they're not doing meditation right. Or a lot of people, I'm like telling them you really should be journaling, or you really should be doing yoga. And like a lot of people feel as if they're like, oh, I'm not really into yoga. I really like to do lift weights or do HIIT workouts. But people don't realize that yoga's not, it was not created to be like a workout. That's not at all what it was created. It's more so of a meditation, a connection with your body. And so when I tell people that are interested in going down like healing work, all of that, I essentially am like telling them dive into, doing yoga, meditation, and journaling, and being outside. Those are like the few things that I always tell people. But really, what I feel like as I've been speaking to you guys through like my content, I really have been setting people up over time to practice shadow work. And I wanted to talk about what shadow work is to me. Obviously, all of us have different understandings about it. And also, how shadow work has allowed me to change tremendously throughout my journey. And all of my shadow work really started with these like simple practice of like journaling and meditation and doing yoga and spending time in nature. All of that stuff, like my shadow work base really started off with doing those practices. So those of you guys that are like, I really want to have like a huge life shift. There's things I'm trying to overcome. There's things that I want to change about my life or about myself. Shadow work, in my opinion, is really like that's going to be the area that's really going to help you uncover things that are holding you back or things that you want to change. And really what I've realized is like doing the shadow work really started off like I had to have those base practices of doing yoga, connecting with my body on a regular basis, doing meditation, noticing what's coming up for me on a regular basis in my mind, journaling, like mind dumping onto a piece of paper on a daily basis, like making sure that's a daily practice, the same way that I would like brush my teeth, journaling every single morning to see like where I'm at, checking in with myself, all of that. And it really was allowing me to set up to be able to really tap into the shadow pieces of myself. So now, a couple of years in, I, have gotten so much more deeper with like the shadow pieces of me, the pieces of me that are like, not so shiny and bright, the pieces of me that I'm like, man, I really wish I wasn't so judgmental, or I really wish I wasn't such a victim. Like pieces of me that like you probably wouldn't tell someone if they were asking you about your personality traits. They're like the things that you hide from other people and things that you hide from yourself. And what I have realized is that through shadow work, through really being able to tap in with myself and being able to see where I'm at on a very regular basis, like basically daily, like every single day, I'm journaling, meditating, doing some form of yoga, and spending some time outside every single day. And it's been like this for years. And for me to be able to really be able to tap into myself, I'm able to see these pieces of me, my shadow, so much more clearer. And it may not make sense to you until you just like commit to saying, hey, I'm going to do my practices, regardless if I don't understand how like spending time in nature helps me shift my personality, regardless if you don't understand how journaling or doing yoga is going to help you overcome trauma. Like, regardless if you don't understand that, I can promise you, if you really commit to doing these practices, on a regular basis, like every single day, even like there's been periods in my life when I've done these practices twice a day, in the morning and at night. If you can commit to doing your practices, doing your rituals, I can promise you, like, you are going to start seeing these reflections, these downloads, these things that like you're starting to understand yourself a lot more, which essentially is doing shadow work and uncovering things about you that you're like hiding from other people and that you are also hiding from yourself. And a lot of the things that we are hiding from ourselves are the things that are our like biggest obstacle. They're the things that are like making us create the same patterns over and over. It's the things that are like preventing us from like moving forward and moving into like a new like type of life. Maybe that's like getting the life that you always want. If you're somebody who really just wants to be happy, like wants to feel free, wants to have a sense of adventure in your life. Maybe your shadow is keeping you in the house, telling you that like you should be insecure about trying new things, telling yourself that I don't have anybody to go do stuff with. Like, there's pieces of ourselves that are our shadow that are holding us back from what we want our lives to look like. And so I wanted to make a video about what shadow work is, like on a very basic beginner's terms, because as I mentioned, when I first got into my journey, I didn't know what shadow work or inner child work was. I could like imagine, when people are like, oh, well, you need to mother your inner child. I mean, like I can imagine what that means, but I really didn't get it. And I didn't really understand how it correlated to the practices that are just like the very minimal basic practices that's kind of pushed whenever you are kind of going down a spiritual journey, which is like spending time in nature, journaling, meditation, yoga. So I wanted to like correlate, if you're somebody who's really interested in like having some sort of a transformation, if you are not happy with who you are as a person or where your life is at right now, there's a reason why you continuously see people talking about just do the work, do the practices, do the work. And it's just kind of like funny to people that are like in this area of life, like of spirituality or personal development, because it's just like a phrase that you always hear people say, like, you need to do the work. And until you understand what that means, you have no idea what that means. And it's just kind of annoying. It's just kind of like, okay, if someone could tell me what the work is, that would be very helpful. So I wanted to make a video about shadow work and how shadow work is actually the thing that has like helped me be so reflective, helped me get all of these downloads about like, okay, this is why I'm struggling in my life. These are things that I'm like, oh, this is a pattern. I'm not going to continue to do this. Shadow work has allowed me to uncover things about myself that I maybe unconsciously knew, but didn't consciously know. And it's helped me be able to really create a new life for myself and really be able to understand what it is that I want in my life, what type of person I want to be. And it's allowed me, shadow work has allowed me to be able to identify the things that are holding me back and be able to move through them. I think one of my friends, like, he was the one that introduced me into shadow work. And, he has explained to me over the years that it's like, once you're doing the shadow work, it's your job to be able to face these things about yourself instead of being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm so bitter in a situation. Like, instead of like running away from feeling bitter and beating yourself up about like, oh my God, you're bitter, you should feel ashamed of feeling bitter. Like, it's actually just welcoming these pieces of ourselves that we're like, oh, I see you, bitterness. Cool. Good to know that you're there. And just moving on and just taking notice, which is what meditation helps us learn, is taking notice to our behaviors, to our emotions, to our body sensations, to our patterns. Like, shadow work is allowing us to confront, face on the things about ourselves that we hide from ourselves and from others. And once we're able to face that big monster, like I was talking about in a previous video, once you're able to face this big monster of something that you are just so afraid of admitting to yourself that you are, which is your shadow, then you're actually able to like move through it and change your reality, get into a different reality. And so it's really, I wanted to like do this video because I've never really fully explained, like, I'm talking to you guys about the downloads that I'm having and the reflections that I'm having about my own life. But really the basis of how I'm getting to those downloads, how I'm getting to those reflections is through shadow work. And the way that I started doing shadow work is through these practices that I'm constantly telling people to do. I'm sharing on my channel. I like talk to so many people throughout the week about like how to meditate or the importance of doing yoga or the importance of spending time in nature. Like, a lot of people, I sense, my intuition can tell that when people come to me and they're saying, hey, I really want a change in my life, and I tell them, hey, make sure you start doing these things on a regular basis, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm not into yoga. That's yogis or whatever. They have like ideas about spending time in nature or meditation. Oh, I can't meditate. I can't turn my mind off. So I wanted to make a video about how all of this stuff correlates together. It's all a part of the journey. It's all a part of the work that we're doing. So if you are somebody who's like looking to have massive shifts in your life, you need to do the shadow work. In order to do the shadow work, you need to learn the practices in order to get you to be able to do the shadow work. So all of this stuff is like a progressive experience. There's a reason why, like, I can say my personal journey, like, when it really, really started, I would say probably started in like 2016. We're in 2024 right now. And so these are things that like I might have first started with like reading self-help books, and then I might have started like getting interested in yoga, and then I might have started getting interested in meditation. Like, this has just been a slow progressive thing. And I think a lot of people think that they're going to go do plant medicine, go do ayahuasca, go do a mushroom ceremony, or they're going to go to a yoga retreat, or they're going to read a self-help book. A lot of people think that like these massive shifts happen overnight or they happen within 6 months. Like, in the beginning, you're just learning the practices, you're learning the waves. But I will say, as you go deeper into your spiritual journey, it almost seems, at least for me, that like things become rapidly faster whenever changes and realizations and life shifts become rapidly faster, like the longer you go on. So I wanted to make this video to help people understand that if you're interested in having some sort of a shift, there are steps to this. I will say the steps are not always the same for all of us, but I will say that there is a basic fundamental like concepts that you will see amongst many different teachers, many different cultures. Like there are very basic things, and most of those come with some form of meditation or prayer. One of the other things is like pretty much every culture you'll see has some significance on spending time in nature, connecting with the earth or connecting with land, and yoga, which is really like tapping into our bodies. And that can look in so many different ways, but the cultures that you see that are more enlightened or more on a spiritual or like love and compassion and peace, like those cultures, those practices, for the most part, you're going to start to see trends of what is commonly always talked about first or throughout those practices, throughout those belief systems. So I wanted to make this video. Hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Those of you guys that are on like those of you guys who are beginning a spiritual journey, or if you are just somebody who's like straight up, I'm unhappy, I don't like how my life is going, I want to make some changes, but I don't know where to start. Like, I want to know in the comments, where are you at? Have like a lot of people that are commenting on my videos, you can tell, like they understand what's going on. A lot of them are sharing stuff with me that I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that with me. So a lot of people that are getting to these videos are people that are already on their journey, but I want to hear from those of you guys that like are just beginning your journey, or those of you that are just like, hey, I want to start down a personal development or a spiritual journey because I'm not happy or things are not great in my life. Like, I want to know from you guys in the comments. And those of you guys that have been down this journey for a long time, how long have you been on your journey, would you say? Obviously, that you can't put like an exact pinpoint on it, but for me, like I think roughly it's been about 8 years, I would say roughly for me, that I've like first got sparked about wanting to make some shifts and changes and knowing that there was like ways to do it outside of just going to therapy and taking like medication of some sort. So I want to know from y'all in the comments, and let me know if this video was helpful. Please like, share, subscribe to this video. It's super, super helpful for me as I'm continuing to try to grow my platforms. I would really appreciate your support.